Hello and welcome to episode 14 of Touchline Talk with Odds Changer, where we will be discussing all the latest news and gossip from the Premier League, AFL and the rest of the world. As usual, I'm joined by football broadcaster and writer Dean Jones to dissect all the latest news and the whispers on the football grapevine. Hiya Dean, you had a good week?
Hello Pete, yeah, not bad at all mate, not bad. Better than Jurgen Klopp anyway.
Yeah, I think most people are having a better week than Jurgen Klopp right now, out of the title race and battling to try and salvage Liverpool's season.
Seems that way.
He wasn't too happy with the transfer window, it seemed, with not getting potential signings that he wanted. But the transfer window's now closed until the summer, Dean, but there's still no shortage of rumours kicking around as clubs prepare their summer business for next season. One name that's a hot topic for debate right now is Erling Braut Haaland of Borussia Dortmund. Obviously, his future has been the subject of conjecture for a long time, following his goal-scoring exploits for Red Bull Salzburg and now also at Borussia Dortmund, one of the hottest properties in world football right now. And the latest talk seems to be Manchester City are favourites for his signature in the summer. Where do you see this one right now with Haaland? Is he City's top target right now?
He's one of the top targets, there's no doubt about that. I think it's going to be interesting to see how the next few months play out for Haaland. Dortmund are in a really tricky situation right now. They are in real danger in Bundesliga of not even qualifying for, potentially even any European football at this rate. And there's obviously no fans in the ground. They're losing money, and there's a problem there. They're looking for a new manager for next season. There's no real clear plan of what's going on at Dortmund going forward, and I think that you always see that they are a club that are willing to sell players at the right price. And I think they'll be concerned that both Sancho and Haaland could go in the summer. From people that I've spoken to close to Haaland, they've always had some reservations about whether the Premier League would be the next destination for Haaland. They're very clearly managing his career and where he goes. The step to Dortmund was very smart and very calculated, and he's doing really well there. They don't want him to turn up in the Premier League too soon, and they certainly don't want him to turn up at the wrong club and it doesn't work out. So that's one interesting factor to take into account of where he does go if he leaves Dortmund. From Manchester City's point of view, look, they looked at Lautaro Martinez. It looks like he's going to sign a new contract at Inter Milan. They're obviously interested in Lionel Messi. They don't know yet what Messi's going to do, but that situation could arise. Kylian Mbappe, I'd imagine is going to end up at Real Madrid, but Man City are there waiting to at least talk to him if the chance arises. Let's talk about Harry Kane, which I can't see at all. I've seen a couple of rumours as well about Lukaku cropping up, which might be a possibility, but I think is unlikely at this stage. I think he's quite happy where he is. So there's a lot of interesting options, but definitely Haaland's on the radar for Man City, and they've also got that decision to make over Sergio Aguero. Do they extend him for another year? Really is going to depend, I think, on whether he can get himself fit before the end of the season.
Yeah, big decisions ahead for Pep Guardiola at Manchester City. It could be the end of an era for Aguero, as you said, coming to the end of his contract. He's had a lot of injury problems. He's had COVID as well this season, so he's not played as many games as he would normally play for Manchester City. Got to remember he is the club's all-time record goal scorer as well. So would he buy out now or when winning the title and move on to pastures new? There's been talk of maybe Barcelona for Aguero in the summer as well, but it'd be a real tantalising prospect, Dean. If Man City were to get Haaland and maybe Lionel Messi in the same window, what a strike force that would be.
Yeah, I mean, that would seriously show some statement, wouldn't it, if they did that? I think it would only be one of the two. I don't see them going and getting both. I mean, you've got to remember as well, Man City, for all the money they have spent throughout this era of, well, they've been trying to become the dominant force in Europe, they haven't typically spent a lot on actual individuals, and they've been pretty careful about how they spent that money. So it's also going to depend on the kind of money that Haaland that would be needed to sign Haaland. And obviously, if Messi's available and it's more about contract, then that might suit them a bit better. We have to wait and see. But yeah, City aren't just going to throw money at both of those players because typically they have been pretty careful in that sense.
Yeah, it's looking like it could be a battle between the two Manchester clubs for a Haaland signature. Obviously, Manchester United had a long-term interest in the striker to try to get him last January before he ended up at Dortmund. There's a relationship between him and Ole Gunnar Solskjaer as well. Could you see United coming in for him? Do you think that's a position they need to bring in, top striker?
Well, look, United thought there was a relationship between Solskjaer and Haaland that would have got him last time. And Solskjaer literally flew to Norway to, they thought, go and sign him. And it didn't happen. He came back without him. And the thinking of that was that there was too much uncertainty about which direction United were heading in. As I said before, they are very carefully managing Haaland's career, and there was too much risk attached to joining Man United at that stage. Has that changed now that Man United are in a title race? Possibly, but I still think that they would want certainties about, okay, so who else are you signing? Like, what are you seriously going to be competing with Man City at the top of the Premier League for the next 2, 3, 4, 5 years? Because that's what he needs to be doing, and he knows he would be getting that at Man City. Pep's just signed a new contract. There's probably more stability attached to going to Man City. Plus, obviously, his dad played for Man City. There's always that factor to bring into it. I do think that had some impact on him not joining United. But yeah, Solskjaer would like to think that his Norwegian roots would help him sign Haaland, but it didn't last time.
No, and the extra complication as well of who his agent is, Mino Raiola. We all know he's had his run-ins with the Man United hierarchy over the last few years with Paul Pogba, so that probably doesn't stand in good stead for United's chances of landing Haaland either. But I'm sure this story's going to rumble on throughout most of the day, and it's probably going to be one of the transfer sagas of the summer with Haaland's future.
Yeah, definitely.
Being such a hot topic, but yeah, a top player. It'll be great to see him come to the Premier League, whether it's now or later in his career. Yeah, another player who is sure to be subject of a lot of transfer rumours this summer is Real Madrid captain Sergio Ramos. Lots of reports coming out of Spain, Dean, that he's rejected Real's final offer of a new deal at the Bernabeu. He's obviously out of contract this season, so he could be available on a free transfer, and somebody of his stature would be a great free agent, I think, for a lot of clubs around Europe. Although he is getting on a bit, still a quality player and a real leader and a winner, I think. So Manchester United seems to be the name cropping up recently that they could be the club to offer Ramos a chance to move to the Premier League. Do you think this one's got real legs in it?
I think we'll find out over the next few months. I mean, look, Ramos is injured at the moment. He's just had to have surgery, which is quite significant. He's 34. And that might actually affect his thinking in terms of what he can realistically ask Madrid for. They're offering him a 1-year extension, which at 34 seems quite reasonable. He wants longer than that. He feels he's done enough to show that he deserves that. But if he's got a reasonably serious injury right now that's requiring surgery, and he's, they've got to take that into account. What if there are repercussions of that, and he's not fit for the next stage of his career? So I do wonder whether that's going to now alter Ramos's thinking. I've never ever imagined Sergio Ramos playing anywhere else. He just seems like one of those players that just stays there. There haven't even been too many rumours throughout his career, really, about him going anywhere else. And let's face it, Real Madrid needs Sergio Ramos. Like, basically, if he's not there, they lose most of the time. And we'll find out how they get on over the next 6 weeks or so as he overcomes this problem. Whether they can get in that La Liga title race and manage to beat Atleti, whether they can make it through in the Champions League. It's a really tough time for Zinedine Zidane, and usually Ramos is the man that he relies on. There's a lot of problems at that club at the moment, and I think losing Ramos would be hugely significant. So I see something giving eventually. Either Real Madrid cave in and somehow come to give him more money, or maybe give him 2 years, or Ramos caves in and is like, okay, I actually don't want to go anywhere else. Man United, of course, it makes sense that they would be interested in this player. They've seen probably the effect that someone like Thiago Silva's had on Chelsea's defence. It's a good idea to bring in a player with so much experience and still so much quality. United obviously need to sign a centre-back, and a short-term solution for a couple of years is ideal.
Yeah, as you said, he'd bring a winning mentality to that Old Trafford dressing room if he was to arrive at United, and not just a great defender, but also scores a lot of goals, a lot of important goals for Real Madrid as well. So he would add that to their game as well. But like you, Dean, I think this one's a bit where it's a bit of a game of cat and mouse between Real Madrid and Sergio Ramos right now. And I'd be amazed if he does end up leaving the club in the summer. But money talks, and probably Man United are one of the only clubs who could offer him a substantial deal. And there's also been talk of PSG with Mauricio Pochettino being quite open about his interest in Ramos. So I'm sure he's going to have options if he feels to agree that new deal at Real.
Yeah, definitely. I think that's a good point. PSG is obviously an interesting one, and it's a step which is quite a nice one at that stage of your career, because you know you're going to be competing certainly domestically, and probably, the club have got such ambition to win the Champions League, you'll still be competing on that front as well, and you know that there are always going to be big names coming in around you. So yeah, PSG is definitely an interesting one to look out for with Ramos as well. Let's see whether they manage to bang their head together and come to an agreement there.
Yeah, I think so. It'd be great to see somebody like Ramos in the Premier League, even though he is getting on in years. I think he'd be a great addition to the league, and whoever does land him is sure of getting a top-class player despite his age. One player who did move to the Premier League in the summer and has found it really tough going so far, Dean, is DonnyvandeBeek at Manchester United. He was a big money arrival last summer from Ajax in a £40 million deal, but he's really struggled to find his best form for United. I think he made his 11th start against West Ham in the FA Cup the other night, and again failed to seize that opportunity to impress, and was hauled off midway through the second half with Bruno Fernandes replacing him. Just 1 goal and 1 assist in 25 appearances for United. This isn't the same player that we saw at Ajax a couple of years ago, who helped them surprise a lot of teams in the Champions League and helped them get to the semi-finals. A lot of people were talking about maybe Van de Beek being one of the best young midfielders in Europe. Just hasn't happened for him so far at United. What would you put that down to, or what do you think is going to happen in the future for Donny van de Beek?
I feel sorry for him, to be honest. I think he was really excited about making this move to United, and I think that he would have expected the club to be probably a little bit more accommodating in terms of finding a role for him within the team. I mean, you mentioned how many games he's played. He's only started 2 league games. I think that's the real problem for him. He started 3 Champions League games of the 6. I think for Van der Beek, it's about feeling part of what's going on and finding the ideal role for him. I'm not sure whether they see him as a central midfielder in part of the 2-man that sit, or is he the attacking midfielder? I don't think Solskjaer's really figured out what he wants him to do yet, because he seems to play him in both roles. Even played him as a defensive midfielder at times. And look, Van der Beek's perfectly capable of all of these things, but United have to figure out how he best fits into their team. Pogba's probably going to be leaving in the summer. I don't think there's any point in losing Pogba and Van der Beek in the same window. I think that Van der Beek is perfectly capable of becoming a really good Man United player. It's just finding the right fit for him in this team. What I do think is that other clubs will be looking at this situation and testing the water in the summer. I think that that's pretty clear. That United definitely weren't the only club that were interested in signing him when they did. And I think there are a few clubs that will see an opportunity here to see whether they can get him out of Old Trafford.
Yeah, I think the likes of Juventus held an interest in Van de Beek before he made the move to Manchester United. And obviously it doesn't help when you've had ex-players and managers like Louis van Gaal coming out saying he made the wrong decision in going to United in the first place. That just increases the pressure on Van de Beek and everything else. And again, I think, like you, Dean, I feel a bit sorry for him. He's been unfortunate. He's had this huge shadow of Bruno Fernandes hanging over him, and he's just been unbelievable for United since he's arrived from Sporting Lisbon last January. And it's hard to get in that team when Fernandes is performing so well. But how long do you think his patience will last? Is he going to be thinking, I need to be playing regular first-team football, especially now with the Euros coming up? If he's not playing in that Dutch team come the summer, it might give him a big decision to make ahead of next season.
Maybe. I mean, look, he's 23. He's got a contract till 2025. Realistically, he's not getting Bruno Fernandes' role anytime soon, is he? So I think that's the issue here. And Bruno Fernandes is going to be in that position probably for the next 4 or 5 years. So Van der Beek is going to have to fit into one of the other 2 midfield roles. And it's a case of, I think, just finding which of those works best, which is the best midfield partner for him. Playing him in cup games and giving him that attacking role, and is that pressure, that expectation, and he can't just switch it on and off. He can't just come in and prove to everybody what a great player he is, because he hasn't got the understanding of the players around him. And I think that that's probably the frustration for him. It's similar to kind of like what happens to Luka Jovic when he joins Real Madrid. He goes in with this reputation of scoring loads of goals at Frankfurt, and then he's given these short stints, like 10 minutes here, 20 minutes there, the odd start in a cup game. You just can't build up the momentum that allows you to build the confidence and the form that you need to perform at your best. And I see very big similarities in what Van der Beek's having to do. There's just no way he can build any form. Really frustrating for him. I don't think that he'll be, especially pushing for a move, because he knows that he'll know he's good enough. And I think he should probably look at this as a challenge more than anything, to prove to Solskjaer that he can do it. Solskjaer's, a reasonable guy. He's not going to, alienate him, I don't think. But I do understand that he has to figure out, what's going to happen, because you don't want to get to the stage where you turn into somebody like, I don't know, maybe Isco at Real Madrid, who has this every single season and never becomes that main man. And you want to be that main man.
Well, big decision ahead for Van de Beek, as you said, in the summer. I agree with you, Dean. I think lack of minutes has affected his rhythm in the team. He's not been able to build up partnerships with any of that Man United midfield or up front, which has affected his performance. And we've got to remember, this is only his first season at United, and for a lot of foreign players, it does take them a while to adapt to the Premier League and get used to it. So I think it's a bit too early probably to judge Van de Beek as a failure or a flop right now. I think let's give him to next season and see what he can do then. But yeah, the pressure will be on him, I think, come next season, especially if Paul Pogba does move on from Old Trafford. He probably will get more opportunities for Ole Gunnar Solskjaer's side then as well. So yeah, it's going to be an interesting few months for Donny van de Beek to see if he gets more opportunities this season. But next season, he probably really needs to grab that opportunity. Talking of one person who possibly could be quitting the Premier League next season is Crystal Palace manager Roy Hodgson. Hodgson's contract at Sellers Park expires this summer, and there's yet to be a decision made on whether he'll be getting a new contract or not. I think Roy turns 74 by the turn of next season when we start in August, so he's not getting any younger, Roy Hodgson, and we all know that the stuff around COVID, there's been suggestions around health of older managers as well. Palace's long-term vision, Dean, I think, is to bring in a younger coach to take the club forward, but you can't really knock what Roy Hodgson's done there at Crystal Palace. Now 4 seasons in charge. He came in when they were at their lowest ebb, kept them up, and they're just mid-table Premier League team, avoiding relegation. Do you think it's maybe be careful what you wish for? Is it one of those ones, Roy Hodgson maybe should get another year at least?
Yeah, I think Palace realise that, to be honest. I think that they've reached a junction where they know they have to start thinking about the future, because Roy Hodgson's turning 74. Like, he can't be a football manager for till he's 100. They're going to have to. Well, he might try. He might try, but they do know that, and they seriously considered the fact that they're going to have a new manager for next season. As I understand it, there are 5 men on their list that they would want as their next manager. I don't know all 5 of those men, but I know that 2 of them are Eddie Howe and Sean Dyche. They are 2 men that fit what they're looking for going forward. I think obviously Eddie Howe has been linked with every vacant job at the moment anyway. Sean Dyche, I'm not sure they would get out of there. But that's kind of what they want. They want this reliable, preferably British guy to come in and kind of carry on what Roy Hodgson's built in terms of principles of the football club. But getting rid of Roy Hodgson is a massive risk, because he does bring such stability. He gives you the safety net of not being relegated usually. And they've just got a decision to make now. And I think they'll probably put it onto Roy Hodgson. I think if he's happy to do another year, I think they'll end up giving him another year, to be honest. This is very, very likely to be Roy Hodgson's last job in club management, at least. He wouldn't really have taken any other clubs apart from Crystal Palace. It's close to where he lives. It suits him right now at this stage of his life. And he was happy to get stuck in. And I know that he has enjoyed being there at Palace. But I don't think he'll be looking for another club management job. I'm not sure he'd have the motivation to do that day in, day out. I'm sure there'll be international jobs he'll be offered after this one. So I'm not sure he'll completely pack it in. But yeah, a big decision to make for Palace, because who's out there that can really take the club further? What is their ultimate ambition? And is it too much of a risk? What if it all goes wrong and they end up going back down to the Championship and aren't seen again for a few years? Such a gamble. And that's why they're a bit twitchy now. I think a few months ago, they kind of made up their mind that Roy Hodgson, this was going to be his last season. Now it's come to the moment. I think they're getting a bit worried, especially as there's no fans in there. You know, there's so much uncertainty around COVID still. It just might be safer to just keep him.
Yeah, I think finances could play a big part in this one. As you said, the COVID situation with no fans in there. Also, if you were to go for one of those top targets, Sean Dyche, he's going to be a huge compensation fee due to Burnley, I think, probably talking between 5 to 7 million for Dyche,
Yeah.
who I think, from what I understand, is the top target for Palace if they were to replace Hodgson. I think he had an interview there once before as well, before Roy got the job. So there's been a long-standing interest there in Sean Dyche. Eddie Howe, again, will be a name on the radar, but from what I'm hearing, Eddie Howe is he's in no rush right now, and it would need to be a job where he's not looking over his shoulder fighting a relegation battle, ideally, if it's out there for him. So again, Palace would probably be around those places. Maybe just staying up would be their aim. So maybe Eddie Howe might be thinking he can get something a bit better. But whoever is in charge of Palace next season, Dean's got a big job on their hands. 16 players out of contract at the end of the season, so it's going to be a big turnaround there. Would that play a huge factor in maybe Roy deciding to stay on or not?
I don't think so. I think that he's been quite open-minded about what the club are doing right now, and you've seen the fact that they're even bringing in types of players now that you wouldn't typically expect to become part of, Roy Hodgson's plans. The fact he's got Eze and Wilfried Zaha, two such flamboyant, skillful players, trying to fit into the same team shows that, he's not being quite so rigid in his thinking, which he has been for most of his career, and just getting players to fill spots in a 4-4-2. So if that's the way the club are going, then I think he'll try and adapt to bringing in new faces, to transitioning the squad into a new era. I don't think he's takes it particularly to heart, the fact that, if he has a couple of bad results these days, Roy Hodgson, I think he's wise enough. And you even hear him talk about it afterwards. He said he's not really losing any sleep over the fact of whether he gets a new contract or not. So he's not going to lose sleep over whether the fact Palace have got a few players out of contract or not. That's not ultimately. He's seen enough players come and go over the course of his career to know that he can get the best out of whoever the next batch is.
Yeah, he's been there, done it, Roy Hodgson. So it's going to be a big few months ahead for Crystal Palace and what they decide to do. Do they go down the new route of a younger manager, or do they stick with Roy and give him another year to keep Crystal Palace in the Premier League, which is probably their ultimate aim? Another club searching for a new manager right now is Bournemouth in the Championship. They sacked Jason Tyndall last week following a run of 4 games without a win, 4 defeats it was for the Cherries. Caretaker manager at the minute is Jonathan Woodgate, who, funnily enough, was brought in by Tyndall to replace Graham Jones as his assistant manager following his departure to Newcastle. So this opportunity just landed on the feet of Woodgate right now. 2 games, 2 wins for Woodgate, and he's led them into the quarterfinals of the FA Cup for just the second time in their history, Dean, with a 2-0 win at Burnley. Do you think Woodgate has an opportunity of getting this job on a full-time basis?
I mean, possibly. They seem to be just reaching out to everyone they possibly can right now to just see whether there's any interest. Obviously, Harry Redknapp is helping Johnny Woodgate right now, and I think that the influence of that shouldn't be downplayed too much. I mean, it's very, very wise that they've got Harry Redknapp involved right now. He knows the club inside out. He knows the team inside out. He watches pretty much every single game at Bournemouth. It's his local club. He loves them. And I think having that wisdom to go alongside Johnny Woodgate's kind of modern understanding of, players and tactics, it's a good combination there. And I think that it's probably something that Woodgate's happy to lean on right now. And it's probably helps them get something extra out of these players. I know that Woodgate, when he went in there, talked about the fact it was one of the quietest dressing rooms he's ever seen in his life. They need some characters in there, and they need to bring out some emotion in these players if they're going to get the best out of them. And I think that, again, Harry Redknapp will do that. I mean, you just have to watch him for 5 minutes on TV to see, how he talks to people, how he makes you believe in yourself. Probably past the point of taking the manager's job himself right now. But I think as a motivator, absolutely ideal. And so I think that Woodgate going in there, get the right team around him, possibly got a chance, possibly. Otherwise, you turn into what, John Terry and Frank Lampard, or there's Nigel Pearson mentioned. There's such a different array of managers. If this goes well, maybe stick with it.
Yeah, maybe Woodgate and Harry could be the dream team for Bournemouth. And at least Harry will be able to find his way to Bournemouth's training ground, unlike Sky Sports' studios for Deadline Day when he got lost with a new sat-nav in his car. But yeah, Bournemouth, obviously their aim is to win promotion this season after relegation last season. The favourite at the minute is the former Huddersfield and Schalke boss, David Wagner. He's now 9-4 favourite alongside John Terry. Obviously, Wagner would fit the bill. He's been there, done it, won promotion with Huddersfield. I got them into the Premier League, kept them there for one season before they ended up suffering relegation as well. Do you think this could be a good fit? Wagner back in English football and back at Bournemouth?
Yeah, it could definitely be a fit. I mean, the other thing that you're getting there is contacts in Germany in terms of bringing in players for next season. And I think that the recruitment would be very good in that sense. I mean, Bundesliga has so many players that would fit in well into lower Premier League sides and upper Championship sides. And Wagner has a vast array of contacts that he would be able to lean on. He also is a very, very good coach himself, who's looking for an opportunity to prove it again. At one point, I thought Wagner might be looking for a club in the upper reaches of the Premier League, to be honest, the way that he was building himself. It didn't quite work out that way. So it's definitely an interesting option. It's a very, very different approach from taking Johnny Woodgate and Harry Redknapp. But I think that's what Bournemouth have to decide right now. Like, what is the next stage of this football club? What are they looking for?
Yeah, big decision ahead for Bournemouth, as you said. Promotion is the aim, and if things continue the way they are, if Woodgate can get performances out of this squad and get wins, there's a real possibility he could get it. He's 5-1 at the minute for the job, but I think Bournemouth, if you look at it on paper, have probably got one of the strongest squads in the Championship and have underperformed. So if he can get the best out of those players, there's a real possibility that they could go and win promotion back to the league. So interesting few weeks ahead in that search for Bournemouth's new manager. But yeah, that's us for another week on Touchline Talk. We'll be back next week for another episode and more news and rumours to dissect. So thank you for joining us.